What's up everyone, it's episode 4 of season 10 of The Bachelor in Paradise, and the generational age gap knows no bounds. Plus, Dale's toxicity spills over the edge in the most shocking episode yet. We've got so much to talk about, so welcome to your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown. Right before we get started, if you are new around here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm here every single week breaking down everything you need to know about The Bachelor in Paradise. So if you don't want to miss a breakdown, hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button. It takes all of 0.2 seconds just to click that little button down there, and it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. But without further ado, let's break down The Bachelor in Paradise. Wow, what an episode that was, and as always I've got Tom's trusty notebook of truth right next to me to break down everything that we saw in that episode. But the first thing that I loved that we got was the arrival of Gary. Now, if you've been watching me these past few weeks, you will know that I'm brand new to Bachelor Nation, so I don't really know anything about these people until they showed up on Bachelor in Paradise. So I've made all my judgments based on what they've been like in this show. But wherever they found Gary, why didn't he win his last season? Can someone tell me that? Because that guy is a gem. I have no idea why he hasn't been snatched up. And I mean, and to all the older ladies, all the older available ladies that are watching right now, what do y'all think of Gary? Because I'll bet y'all think he's a catch. He is a lovely man, and I just get nothing but joyous, sweet, kind vibes from him, and I just adore him. He's the kind of guy that you just want to get a big hug from, and I would just love to hang out with him. He just seems so great. So I'm telling you what, these older ladies in Paradise, they're in luck at the fact that this man has walked right in. Gary is great. That's my first verdict on him. And they were all over him. They were completely all over him. They were fawning over him and loving him. And it's crazy because they've been in Paradise, you know, for a bit now, and they've had chance to mingle with the other fellas, but no, it was all just eyes on Gary the second he walked in. And I'll tell you what, I don't blame him. It turns out though that the woman who really hit it off with Gary was Leslie. They sat down to have a conversation about wisdom and age and what it's like getting older. And I'll tell you what, folks, I've always felt myself as a bit of an old soul, and I really enjoy the older folks' conversations much more than the younger folks. I don't know if that's a thing with Bachelor Nation where a lot of people feel that way, or if it's just me, but yeah, my personal thing, I feel like a lot of the younger conversations are padded with what I would call a nothing sandwich. You know, it's a big old echo chamber where you go, really, yeah, like this, like that. That conversation actually felt like it had something in it. There was the meat, there was the pickles, there was the butter. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful sandwich. And Gary and Leslie really hit it off, and he decided to take her on a date. And the date went marvelously. They went to dance to salsa music in the middle of the jungle, and I felt like I was in Dexter. It was great. You know, those Miami, Cuba vibes. So much fun. I love that. I love salsa music. I actually listen to salsa music in my spare time. Check my Spotify. It's stacked with that stuff. Honestly, when my Spotify Wrapped comes through this year, I think there's going to be salsa music at the top of it. So I love that. And Leslie seemed to as well. And they had a really sweet conversation where she was talking about how in the past she's kind of struggled to kind of let go of the reins because she feels like she hasn't had someone to fall back on. And Gary was being so sweet and so endearing, and he was basically, I feel like he was almost offering himself and saying like, I could be that person. And that's so sweet, because I like Leslie a lot as well. I don't know a lot about her. I haven't really been able to gauge too much on her, apart from she seems like a sweet old lady, and I'm really rooting for those kids. You know, I'm younger than them, calling them kids, but Gary and Leslie, really like those two, and it was a very strong start to the episode seeing those two head out on a date. In terms of the other couples that are still going strong, or at least still exist, because I don't want to say strong for some of them, because I'm telling you what, folks, some of those relationships are literally 2 inches away from burning in the fiery pits of a volcano because of how many red flags there is coming out of them. But here are the current couples as following at the beginning of the episode. Andrew and Alex are continuing to hit it off, but there's something in my gut, and tell me if I'm wrong. You guys obviously have been in Bachelor Nation a lot longer than I have. Couldn't get my words out there. But there's just something so sweet about Alex. I've called her a gem every single week. And I mean that, and that's an important word, because with a gem, you know, it's often indicated that a gem is found in the rough, right, in the dirt. I'm telling you, there's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of dirt in this cast, I'll just tell you that for sure. But Alex, sweet, sweet Alex, she is a gem. She is a sweetheart, and I can't help but feel like no man in that villa is good enough for her. Or that in the hotel is good enough for her, because she's so quirky and lovely, and I feel like a lot of the younger men especially aren't ready to throw themselves into Alex, and they're kind of holding back, but I just think she's the sweetest, most humorous, endearing human there, and I just love her so much, and I really hope it works out with Andrew. But we didn't see much on them that episode, but there's still 100% developments that can be made as the season goes on. Jeremy and Bailey are still hanging in there by literally the thread of a hair. See that little gap in my eyebrow there? That's pretty much how it symbolises their relationship. There is quite literally nothing there. I have been saying this for weeks. Their relationship is surface level. They have quite literally shown that they have very little in common, and it's just a hot mess waiting to happen. And the thing I don't like about Jeremy is the fact that when the new girls came into Paradise last week, he asked Bailey if he could go on a date with one of them, and she was like, fine, go, do your thing. I endorse it. She wasn't even that harsh. She was a lot warmer about it. And then the second when the new boys come in and Bailey wants a slice of the action, Jeremy gets all macho and bravado and very toxic, and almost this entitlement comes out that just says, no, I can do what I want, but you can't do what you want. I should have picked Susie. Is she still on the island right now? Can we call her? Fill in the blanks there. I don't want to get demonetized, but I do not trust this Jeremy fellow at all. But I also think what Bailey seeks in a relationship is very surface level, and she also needs to realise, maybe change tact in what she's looking for. Because I think the important thing with these shows is to, especially when you're commentating on them, approach it with empathy, but also logic. That's kind of how I'm doing it, because these are all humans at the end of the day, and I want to see them all find love. But I'm also growing completely irate at these nasty people who don't have a lot of respect for those around them, and you best believe I'm going to talk about that very, very soon. April has been all over the place in terms of who she's been interested in. It swung from Jack all the way to Captain Kim, and then she finally decided to tell her feelings to Captain Kim. She bared her soul, and Captain Kim basically turned around and went, I don't really see you as much more than a friend. So then April changed tact, and then she went back to poor old Jack and said, you tonight have given me more than anybody else in here has given me. And that's when my alarm bells started going off about April. Because she's very entertaining, just on a reality TV aspect. Great TV. But then when she started going back to Jack as second best, and this Jack, he's such a lovely man. I really get nothing but good vibes from Jack. He was really trying to put his heart out there, and he was calling her a beautiful lady. So she's laying it on thick with Jack, saying, you've saved me tonight. You've saved me so much. And you mean so much to me, and it's the most meaningful connection I've made all night. Put a pin in that one, folks. We're going to come back to it. April then went on to have a conversation with Jonathan. Right? Get this, Jonathan, who is one of the younger men. April's one of the Goldens, Jonathan's one of the younger ones, and he's being kind of... I feel like Jonathan, he's like lying in the back of every single relationship. So all of these relationships start going to the pipes, and then Jonathan's there with his big smile and lack of personality, and he swoops right in. And April wants a slice of the action. While she played it off as if she was like this motherly kind of role, looking out for him and hoping that he looks for love, I knew her motives, and I think we all did. And then it cuts to Jonathan in a confessional saying she's a very spiritual woman. I'll tell you what, she might be a spiritual woman, but she's also a cougar. Now the talking point of tonight came with Dale and Kat. They of course got a lot of airtime tonight, and they were showing us what they've been up to and how their relationship has been, I want to say continuing, but it kind of feels like the graph isn't going up or even steady. It's going down the pipes. And I'll tell you why. Because Dale is absolutely awful. I have held judgment on Dale through these first few weeks, but I've seen y'all in the comment section going, don't trust Dale yet, Tom. And I never trusted him. I always was like, something in my gut said there was something off about him. But tonight I'm letting rip on him, because this man is nasty. He is nasty. He is foul. And I'm just absolutely disgusted. I was sat watching it with both my partner and a friend, and all three of us were just like in absolute disbelief at the way Dale was treating Kat. And don't get me wrong, I'm not really a fan of Kat either, but she deserves way better than this man. I don't even want to say, like, it's just an excuse of, I would say, like, to me, it's like, he's got the mentality of a child, you know? He's got the mentality of a child, of just throwing his toys out the stroller when he doesn't get his way, and I see right through it. I see right through it. There's no fooling me there, folks. So we're going to talk about all that right now. Kat was, expressing the fact that she was having some concerns about last week's kissing booth, and she was asking about if Dale had kissed somebody else in the kissing booth, to which he had, and then she was a little bit upset about that. She kind of expressed how she was feeling like they were very, very solid, and how Dale has made them feel very solid, and continually hammered home about the fact that those two are in it for the long haul and they're going to try things out together. So while there is no commitment truly, the way Dale went about this was absolutely horrific. Kat was trying to talk about her feelings and saying that she was upset by it and that she felt, it was a shock to the system. And Mr. Big Macho Man, Dale, all bravado and nothing to back it up, he sits there and completely dismisses her and invalidates her and says, you're making a big deal out of it. You're making too much of a deal out of it. And I'm telling you, he's doing exactly what all the folks are doing on this show. All these young men, not the older men, because I'll tell you what, I'll praise the older men all day long. They treat a woman with respect. And I also think the older ladies treat a man with respect as well. It doesn't matter whether you're on the male side or the female side or whatever your gender is. It does not matter. If you want to work with somebody on making a relationship work, you treat them with respect. You make them feel special, because they are special. And Dale has got nothing of that. The only thing he really cares about is himself, and it's very, very difficult to watch. It makes me uncomfortable. And I checked online as well, and I'm seeing a lot of other people are feeling that way as well. Because the older men are so sweet, they take a lady by the hand and, they kiss them on the hand and you look beautiful today. That's how I do it. I love that. I love that old style stuff. I think that's a wonderful thing. Whereas, I don't know what it is. Like, am I missing something? Because I feel like I'm even younger than most of these men in Paradise, but I'm still in absolute disbelief. What am I missing? Why do they conduct themselves in this way, where it's all like, I'm just going to mew and make my jawline look bigger than it actually is. Everyone look at me, I'm amazing. And it seems like that's all that matters to them. Looks and how they come across. And it's just really, really difficult to watch. Because then, when the person that they're allegedly falling for and have feelings for comes to them with an issue, all of them, apart from Spencer, I would say, all of these young men, apart from Spencer, just shut down. It's almost like a switch gets flipped off inside them. And immediately, it's like the little boy in them comes out, where they throw a tantrum if they don't get their way, or if somebody other than themselves have feelings. I think I'm onto something here, right, guys? Please let me know, because I don't want... See, these men, they make you feel like you're going crazy for even calling it out, and it's almost foolproof to them, because Dale is just completely invalidating Kat and saying, you're making a big deal out of this. I thought we deaded it. Grow up. Deaded it. What? She's coming to you. She's bearing her heart to you and being upset about the fact that you kissed another girl last week, and all you can say is that I thought we deaded it. Like, shut up, man. Like, seriously, it really irked me. It really, really irked me so much. He and Brian are like peas in a pod. Everything's fine and dandy, and they want to play around and try and act the big guy until reality and life slaps them in the face. And that's why the relationships that these guys are in will never work. Because it takes two to tango, and unless you can listen to your partner and actually take in what they are saying without throwing a hissy fit, It's not going to work, my friend, and I don't think it should take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It's all bravado, and it's almost narcissistic in the way that they operate. You know, the way Dale carried on through that as well, when Kat kind of showed she was done with it, the way he started talking about, you know, I was raised in a different way, where my values, and I thought, no, don't even get me, I'm not even finished. I thought it just irked me even more. There's something so icky and off about the fact that he completely dismisses everybody else's feelings, and then he tries to put himself above everybody else when somebody has an issue with him. That really rattles me, and it just feels like something really sinister, and I really do not like it. It's irks me to the core, and it's just plain toxic. Now, after a very wholesome start to the show with Gary and obviously a little bit of a dip with Dale, of course it came down to the rose ceremony, as those two stories were the focal point of the episode so far. But here we go, folks. The rose ceremony saw the departure of a few gents, and we're going to go by who the ladies picked to give roses to at the rose ceremony. Parisa was first, and she decided to pick Brian. My immediate thought was, you're going to pay the price for that in just a couple weeks' time. We'll put a pin in that. Bailey, of course, picked Jeremy. Again, I feel like there is going to be some regret there as it goes on. I don't think Jeremy's as bad as Brian. Brian, to me, fits in the same category as Dale. Those two should just be... Until they get therapy, or at least acknowledge that they are not very nice people in relationships, then they're just going to have a lifetime of going from one woman to another, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. Alex picked Andrew. That was very, very sweet. I can't wait to see that one blossom. I really hope Andrew's the one for Alex. We'll see as the weeks go on, of course. But yes, Alex did decide to pick Andrew. Natasha was next up, and this one came as not a shock, but it kind of put a thorn in the side of someone, because she decided to pick Gary. And this is Gary who's been hitting it off with Leslie all episode, and I think a lot of people were like, oh, okay. And Gary was obviously very graceful in receiving the rose. He and Natasha were very, very sweet in the conversations that they had, but I think Gary's heart, at least right now, belongs to Leslie, and he wasn't offended by Natasha picking him. I love Natasha. She's very sweet, and she deserves so much love as well. But yeah, she decided to pick Gary, which then put Leslie in a little bit of a pickle. She had to decide out of the rest of the fellas, because she was actually going to pick Gary, and she decided to pick Captain Kim. Kathy was next up, and she decided to pick Keith. That one came as no surprise to me. They, of course, had their date last week, which was so wholesome, I must add. But there is a little iota that we're going to talk about at the very end between Kathy and Keith. Jess was next up, and I had no clue who she... Of course, she picked Spencer. She picked Spencer. That's Love's Young Dream. That one's going to be off to the moon. They're going to be married with kids in no time. Maybe. I don't know. I've got some feelings about that. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. But in fact, I'm going to throw that to you guys right now. What do y'all think of Jess and Spencer? Because I really, really love them. But there's just something in me that makes me feel like there's something off about Jess. And I don't know what it is. I could be totally wrong, and I could end up eating my words. I'm not saying she's a terrible person, but I've usually got a good intuition and gut with people. Throughout my life, I've got a good track record. Let me just tell you that. And there's just something about Jess. I'm not saying she's bad. I'm not saying she's sinister, but there's something that just goes in Tom's gut. I'm just like, Spencer deserves the world, and I hope that Jess can give it to him, because I feel like Spencer would give Jess the world. That's all I'll say. Jill was next up, and she picked Sean, of course. Sean is the only person she's really had a romantic kind of interest with since she's been in, so that's very, very sweet seeing that play out. Again, another iota there towards the end of this recap that we're going to talk about. Kat was next up, and while the episode did flash out some of her kind of annoyance with Dale, or a lot of her annoyance, and her shifting towards Mr. Smiles, Jonathan, it was coming down to the wire. Was she going to pick Jonathan, or was she going to pick Dale? She decided to pick Mr. Manchild himself, Dale. Bad move, Kat. My immediate reaction there was, and the same with my partner and my friend who were watching, have some self-respect. You're going to talk about how Dale's disrespecting you and all that kind of stuff, and then he continues to die on the hill and put himself above you as if your feelings matter way less than his, and then you still pick him. Kat needs to get some self-respect. As much as Dale sucks, she needs to realise that this ain't the man she deserves to be with. She deserves somebody who actually listens to her feelings and listens to her emotions when she's talking to them, and not just dismiss them and himself make a statue out of himself that makes him completely above everybody else. It then came down to April, and she had 2 picks on the board. It was Jack or Jonathan. She decided to pick Jonathan. So the generational gap was blurred there, and a golden chose one of the young ones. And I was kind of in shock a bit. And I've talked about how I enjoy April on a TV level, but I feel like she's very, not fake, but she is... I don't know. I don't really think she cares about people's feelings as much as she makes out she does. Because that manoeuvre was to make her, look like all the motherly role and looking out for Jonathan, which was sweet. But also, that was so mean to do that to Jack, to lull him into that conversation we talked about earlier, saying, "You've saved me tonight, and you've made me feel so special, and I can't wait to see what happens with us," only to not even acknowledge him and pick somebody who isn't even in the same realm, Jonathan hadn't had anybody in that younger group, and she saved him. And even if she had the respect for Jack, who she said, "You saved me, why don't you return the favour and save him and give him a chance to find some love?" April's great TV, but I couldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. In the fallout from the rose ceremony, the episode 100% planted so many seeds to get everybody excited for next week. And 2 of those seeds were the arrival of Leah and Nancy. Leah was on a season of The Bachelor. She is one of the young ones joining, and Nancy is one of the golden, so they kind of just threw a few more women in the mix there. But one of the teasers at the end was the fact that they're adding more and more and more women, but there is less and less men. There is going to be a feeding frenzy at the Florida retirement home for those older ladies, because my, I'm telling you, they're going to be waiting around like someone's about to kick the bucket, and then they're ready to swoop in and get what they want. I am loving this show. But another thing I want to talk about just before we end it was the fact that Nancy did have a conversation with Keith and said, "Hey, I'm good friends with Kathy, and I know you two are kind of a thing right now, and I don't want to get in the middle of you two. I don't want to get in the way of it." And then Keith... I had Keith in high regard until this moment. He turns around and goes, "Yeah, I'm not really attracted to Kathy." And then we cut to a confessional, and he says, "But Nancy, she's smoking hot." Poor Kathy. Poor Kathy. She's going to feel so betrayed if Keith goes for one of her closest friends. That's tough. See, I mean, if Keith was one of the younger fellas, I feel like now he's starting to fit into one. Maybe that's why some of the younger fellas hold him in such high regard. I'm not saying Keith's terrible, because I like him a lot more than I like some of the younger guys, but I'm just putting the pieces together, that's all. And like I said, I am brand new to Bachelor Nation. I have never seen an episode of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or The Golden Bachelor. I started Bachelor in Paradise on this first episode this season, and like I said, it's the first time I've watched anything in Bachelor Nation. And week after week, after week after week, it doesn't fail to surprise me. It's just amazing. I'm really, really enjoying immersing myself in Bachelor Nation. And this tease for the next episode that we saw, everybody, the men's numbers going down, the women have to jump on them. And then I think Nancy also wants a slice of Gary, who's getting on like a house on fire with Leslie. Oh, be still my beating heart. Oof. I don't know if my young heart's cut out for all this old love. In the very last scene of the episode, we saw the arrival of Faith, who was also one of the Golden. She arrived on a horse on the beach, and there was a big reaction to that. Of course, I don't know who Faith is, so I'm going to have to rely on you guys to tell me a little bit about Faith. But that was the tease going into next week's episode, and it's going to be an absolute feeding frenzy. That is all of your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown for today, folks. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. There was some positive, there was some negative, but I feel like that's the case when you cast some of these people in this paradise, because I'm starting to look at it and I'm like, I don't even know if I'd call this paradise at this point. But Brian and Dale, I've got my eyes on you two. I see through you. I see your game. And it's not like I think they even do this stuff intentionally. I think they are hardwired to operate like this. They are hardwired to just go from person to person to person with absolute or very, very little regard of their feelings, and then when somebody brings their feelings to them, they just prop themselves up as if they are gods amongst people, and I just hate that. I hate it to my core, and that's why I talked about that so much today, because there's just something so icky when there are so many lovely people in paradise bearing their soul and really want to find love, and a couple of people like that have to go and ruin it for everybody. I got my eyes on you too, and I see completely through you. But besides that, I really think we've got a lovely bunch, and I want to see some love. I want to see some love, and I feel like we're starting to see some inklings of it as the season starts to close up, which is quite a long way away still. We're not even halfway through. There is going to be, hopefully, in my eyes, I'm just hoping for 80s, 70s Hollywood romance. That's kind of what... I've got the rose-coloured glasses on, and I just want to see some love, because so far, I've seen too much toxicity. And that's the thing I've started to notice about these shows, and I don't know if that's just a thing. It must be a reflection of real life with all these dating shows. What I don't like about it is the fact that, and I love The Bachelor in Paradise, but one irk I have about certain shows, certain dating shows specifically, is the fact that I feel like they paint a picture of the wrong people that we should be aiming for. And a lot of young people watch dating shows as well. So, you know, from very young ages, we're watching these shows and we see these very superficial, surface level relationships, and everyone's obsessing over them online. But I feel like sometimes we should look to the older, the Goldens, to see really what we should be aiming for, because I'm telling you what, right, there will be people out there looking at Dale and Kat and internalising that, and then when it's their turn to date when they're a bit older, you know, their standards are going to be like below. Especially if you're looking at Dale or Brian, you're already off to a bad start. I tell you what, keep your eye on Spencer, keep your eye on Gary, and then you're off to the races. But like I said, folks, that is all of your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown for today. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. I'll be here every single week breaking down the show, so if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button. But in the meantime, I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, and staying healthy out there, and remember to be kind to each other, and don't be a Brian or a Dale. But don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that wonderful stuff. But until your next Bachelor in Paradise breakdown, I've been your host, Tom VASEY. Good night.